Nurse.org and Major League Sports teams are honoring nurses with discounted game tickets and once-in-a-lifetime experiences. From throwing the first pitch to riding the Zamboni to on-court recognition, join the fun. Visit nurse.org/nurse night to find a nurse appreciation event near you and grab your discounted tickets today.
The Love and Leary podcast is where nursing leadership, innovation, and real talk come together. Hosted by nurse leaders Marion Leary
and Rebecca Love.
The show dives into the issues that matter most to today's nursing community.
Each episode features candid conversations, expert insights, and bold perspectives on healthcare, leadership, advocacy, and the future of nursing. Whether you're a clinical nurse, nurse leader, or another healthcare changemaker, Love and Leary offers thoughtful dialogue and practical takeaways to inform, inspire, and empower nurses at every stage of our careers.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Love and Leary podcast. Marion, it's great to be back to have this episode with Sandy Summers, who is the founder of The Truth About Nursing, a 501c3, who is really focusing on educating the public on the understanding of nursing. So Sandy, Marion, we're thrilled to be here. Sandy, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much. I'm delighted to be here.
So Sandy, I love all the work you're doing, but can you talk about, for those who don't know the truth about nursing, what your mission is and what you're really striving to do for the profession?
Right. Thanks, Marion. So we work to analyze the media and challenge them to do a better job. There's so much of nursing that is all about portraying nurses as stereotypes. There's the unskilled nurse, the handmaiden nurse, the naughty nurse, the woman the yesterday's girl, we call her, the women who just never got the memo that women can do jobs that were formerly reserved for men. And so why would any woman be a nurse anymore? That's what we were forced to do long ago, when those were the only three options we had were nursing, teaching, and secretary, motherhood, of course. And then there's the angel image of nursing and the battle axe. And advanced practice nurses are portrayed as second-class providers, even though their care, research shows their care is equal to or better than that provided by physicians. So when the media portrays us in any regard, usually we just focus on the good or the bad, not the medium. But we reach out and thank people who do a good job portraying nursing. But sadly, largely most of the portrayals we see are rather negative. So we reach out to them and ask them to do a better job.
This is fantastic, Sandy. I mean, honestly, I think many of us as nurses, even though it is the largest profession in the United States with over 5 million, representing the largest profession of women in the United States as well, to your point, has largely been defined and described in our media, not by our own voices or not with the narratives that would actually amplify positivity, the impact nurses have, and the intelligence, the knowledge, and the skill sets that they bring forward, not only within the settings and they work, but actually the impacts that they have on their communities. So when you were building this, what actually triggered you to start this? And how has been the response of the work that you've been doing?
Oh, yeah, thanks. We actually got started 25 years ago in 2001 when George Bush released his first budget proposal that called for cuts to nursing education and community health nursing. And our fellow founders were in graduate school at Johns Hopkins then for the community health nursing program. And so I forwarded the link about this and asked, and one of my friends, Gina Pastelka, she's like, let's get together and talk about what we can do about it. So we got together and talked about, like, where do people get this idea that nursing is to be so undervalued, that you can, in the middle of a nursing shortage, you can just make cuts like this and nothing bad is going to happen either to nurses or patients. So we just floated ideas around. It's like, it's got to be the media. We didn't have research at the time, but we soon found it. That research shows that the media affects the way people think and act toward nursing. So we got together then, we got to a group of us, a little group, and the nursing professors, our dean, and the 3 presidents of the Emergency Nurse Association. And we sent a letter to the makers of ER because that was the most influential show on the air at the time. And so we asked for a conference call and didn't hear back. I called 35 times, literally.
Wow.
And then they finally granted us a call. So in the call, they were like, the mid-level producer they gave us was somewhat, receptive, but the medical advisor, a physician, he was pretty obnoxious. And he said, oh, maybe you want to follow me at work one day. It's like, no, we know what physicians do. Like nurses know what physicians do. It's physicians who don't know what nurses do. We want you to follow us at work. Could you come follow us at work? And he declined. Anyway, so I followed up several times after and tried to get them to make these like 9 significant changes we wanted them to make. Like 1, have nurses do the nursing work, have nurses speak to each other, have nurses speak to the patients, take care of the patients and educate each other. The senior nurses educate the junior nurses just like they do with the physician characters. So after a couple months, the mid-level producer sent me a letter and said, can you leave us alone? We've got a show to put on. It's like, all right, we're leaving the inside track, going on the outside track. So we issued a press release, about our concerns, and the Washington Post picked it up when we got global news coverage. And so we just decided to kind of stay on the outside track since then. And we've gone after people. So Hollywood, ER did make a few changes. At first, they were so scared they took all the minor nurse characters off the air, like for a couple of years, and then gradually they brought them back. And the Sam Taggart character, the final major nurse character, they did end up sending her to nurse anesthetist school at the end instead of the previous 2 they sent to physician school. So that was somewhat of a nod toward us, and they did make a few other nods, and now they're back. Those same people who produced ER, now they're back with making the pit, same problems all over again, that physicians are doing the nursing work and the nurses are in the background doing, meaningless work. Or this one particular episode where a patient was dying, end of life. They were going to let him die. And when he finally died, she comes running out of the room like a scared bunny. I don't know what to do, called the main physician character in there. It was pathetic portrayal of nursing. Even though the charge nurse, Dana, she won
a Golden Globe, I believe, or an Emmy on for her portrayal of the lead nurse. Yes. Yeah.
So, and the actress does a very good job, but the charge nurse, she doesn't really take care of patients, but usually they don't, but they manage nurses, but she never manages the nurses. She just is the aide de camp to the main physician character. Meanwhile, the others, they do a lot of babysitting of random people who come in and need of babysitting, but they only in one episode, episode 6 of season 2, that was the best episode for nursing, where nurses actually talked to patients and talked to each other and did some valuable work for nursing. But other than that, it's just been same old stuff since ER. So
that's what I was going to ask. So it's been 25 years. You say it's sort of the same old from ER to the pit, but have you seen changes of the portrayal of nurses either in like TV show media or through the news?
Well, the news somewhat. We had, so in the zeros and the early teens, there were a multitude of advertisements featuring mostly naughty nurses, from Skechers to Dentine to Pennzoil, Schick. I don't know, so many. And we actually had, we had a lot of success getting those advertisements removed. So like dozens, billboards and things. So that particular stereotype we had good success with, not with, Halloween costumes. Those have actually gotten worse, in terms of the naughty nurse, but advertisements, we had several advertisements that not only did we get the manufacturers to stop using them, but we also got global media coverage because we put out press releases afterwards. And it wasn't And this is something I would like nurses to do as well, not just like when they publish a paper that has significance the public would like to know about. Like, don't stop with the initial success. Try to get public, lay media coverage for it so the public learns about it. So the public, through these several times, we've got global media coverage. And so advertisers came to learn that, okay, nurses are pretty angry when we use some naughty nurse stereotypes, so maybe we shouldn't do that anymore. And honestly, since 2012, we haven't seen anything in the advertisements. Hooters, at one point, they had this one naughty nurse ad, and they were, I called them up to object, the director of marketing, and he said, we've had so much positive feedback on it. We're thinking about making the uniforms of the waitresses naughty nurse uniforms.
My God.
So it's like, no, for real? So I called him every day for 2 months. And he was like, yeah, no, we're still thinking about it. It's like, I call him again. So finally, after 2 months, he's like, yeah, we decided not to. It's like,
Andy Summers, you are a national nursing hero. I mean, in all honesty, I am just applaud that for the last 25 years behind the scenes, Truth About Nursing has really been fighting the fight on changing the narrative and the image and perception of nursing and taking it to where the fight matters. And I am just shocked and that more people are not aware of the work that you have been doing. Because the movement that you started and taking action after the cuts to nursing education, specifically getting national attention with regards to the Washington Post back in 2025, to me is something that should be shown and advertised and shared across nursing schools as an educational moment in time of when policy and narratives across the nation collide and nurses can do something in a really public fashion that can change outcomes. And for you to take on just and largely 1-2 small groups of individuals, major organizations and corporations, and being able to stay with that consistency to actually change outcomes of what may be seen as business decisions that have strong resonance across an audience that is non-nursing is incredibly remarkable. Like, I am just blown away by the work that you're doing and how long you've been going at this, Sandy. And I think, and Marion and I talk about this a lot, which is change comes very slowly. It's sort of like we have to look back at our career to recognize how far we've actually come, because in the day to day, it feels like this grind and that we lose constantly. And I don't know if you feel that or if you have felt that way yourself, but for the listeners out here, Sandy, what has kept you going all these 25 years? And, because clearly this is a labor of love, not a labor of anything to do other than trying to advance this profession in a way that, has not been orchestrated at a national level with any major organization.
Thank you, Rebecca. Well, I mean, it's just, I can't tolerate the disrespect, just why should we tolerate the disrespect? We don't have to.
I love it. Marion, what is your thoughts on some of this?
Well, I think this is a larger issue than just disrespect, though it is absolutely disrespectful to portray nurses in these demeaning ways and to not represent us to our full extent. But I think we've seen it over the last few years with nursing not being designated a STEM field, with the DOE not designating it as a profession or a professional degree, rather. The way that we are portrayed in the media has lasting effects in policy and in these different rulings and regulations. And I think people need to understand that more. Nurses need to understand that more, that if we don't push back against these narratives that are put out by entertainment industry and the media, it has long-term effects for our profession and the way that we work and the way that we are thought of within healthcare. And so to Rebecca's point, the work that you're doing is so fundamentally important because it permeates society. And we know that what people see, they often believe.
Hey nurses, looking for exclusive discounts? Nurse.org has you covered with deals on everything. Save big on the essentials you need to excel in your career. Don't miss out. Visit nurse.org/discounts for the latest discounts made just for you.
Yes, and thank you, Marion. I insufficiently answered the last question. So, yeah, not only the disrespect, but because of the disrespect, it affects how much funding we get for nursing education, clinical practice, and research. And when people think that we don't do anything of value, then they don't fund us well enough. Excuse me. So nursing education gets only 1/50th of the amount of money physician education gets. Nursing research, well, now the NIH has been decimated, but it used to get 1/200th of the budget. And clinical practice, as you know, the nurse staffing ratios are abysmal, and they kill patients and they drive nurses out of the workforce. And also the whole narrative about the nursing shortage, which is just, we have to remove this phrase from our language, because the nursing shortage is created by the hospital industry. They did this. There's 1 million nurses sitting on the sidelines who would be happy to be nurses, who spent a fortune getting educated to become nurses and wasting, 4 years of their lives so they could become a nurse for 6 months before they thought they needed to leave just to keep themselves whole. So hospitals are driving nurses out of the workforce because they don't see what we do as valuable enough.
Sandy, I think, you make a very powerful perspective here. And I think the reality is it is, to your point, we don't only have the impact of the media that is shaping this narrative, but the most powerful organization that represents the vast majority of nurses who are working and employed, hospital organizations in this country, are not understanding or recognizing the value of nursing at their organization. As it is a cost structure, they cut those costs, they eliminate nurses, they don't invest in that profession. And many of those situations that we're seeing in conversations that are happening and accelerating is the direction of which these resources are going into other areas that they do see value. One case in point recently is the American Medical Association has approved 288 CPT codes for reimbursement of AI, but not a single CPT code to reimburse for nursing. And what we're finding is that there's a direct correlation that those reimbursement codes for AI were actually tasks that nurses produced and did on behalf of healthcare workforce, but are being classified as an administrative task that now can be billed to individuals, but that dollar amount will no longer go to support nursing workforce. And so in those places, we're going to actually potentially see a swap of nurses out of tasks that they did conduct, now being able to be reimbursable, but being conducted by AI as opposed to nursing. And I think, to your point, these are narratives that, without us being able to define our scope of practice and eloquently establish what the roles are that we do and the scope of which our practice actually establishes, we're at very significant risk of this nursing profession being redefined not only by the media, but by AI and the absence of our ability to define our roles accordingly. And I have to tell you, I think that the work that you're doing is probably some of the most fundamental work that is going to be needed, necessary going forward. So questions to you, which is, if nurses are listening, what should they be doing, Sandy, at this moment? How can they get involved? What kind of actions can they take at this point in time to drive forward these narratives?
Right. Well, we'd be happy to have them get involved on our website. You can sign up for our newsletters or at truthaboutnursing.org. We also are starting to launch the Coalition for Better Understanding of Nursing, where we can get nurses from all individuals and representatives, hopefully from every group, whether it's a nursing organization or a hospital or a school or a journal. Everyone come together to talk about what we're going to do. And we're going to try to have a conference maybe in the next summer, when we all get together and make some plans about coordinating. That'll be our first meeting. So yeah, we do need to coordinate better and join our letter writing campaigns on our website. Well, I guess it's the old timey phrase, letter writing campaign. Now we just want to just campaign. I still haven't changed my language. So, and analyze the media. And if you see something positive, good, send people kudos, thank them. But if you see something negative, please write to them. You can email them or send them messages on social media and send a message to us so we can also help in the coordination of, launching a campaign against them if it's really negative. And also educate people wherever you are. If you're your next door neighbor, if you're sitting on a bus or a train, at a party, anywhere you go, educate people about the value of nursing. Tell people about the last life you saved. And if you're too shy to do that, tell people about the last life that your coworker saved, but we need stories of nurses saving lives to get out there. We have a bumper sticker you can get on our website called Save Lives, Be a Nurse. I should have one here, but I don't. So the message is it's not really it looks like a recruiting message, but basically we designed it as an educational message that nurses save lives. People don't know that nurses save lives. And if they did, we would be more highly valued, better funded, better staffed. And so, for instance, the Linda Aiken research at the University of Pennsylvania and other colleagues, showed that when you double a nurse's workload from 4 patients to 8, patient mortality increases by 31%. She did that research since 2001 and continued to do it in various settings, various countries, continents. And no matter where she did the research, the results are basically identical.
That is amazing. And I think I agree with you 100%, Sandy. The number one denominator across almost all published NIH research shows that the rates of mortality are directly tied to the number of patients a nurse has within 30 days of that hospital admission. It has been, to your point, Linda Aiken's research, supported by others in that show that is the denominator, that if you go into a hospital, your number one predictor of mortality or not is going to be determined by the number of patients that nurse has to actually deliver the care so that you can be effectively healed while you're in those spaces. And I think we all know this, Andy. I think that the general public knows that the reason that they are in a hospital today is not because they needed surgery or they needed OT or PT or respiratory therapy. The reason they went to a hospital is their life was so at risk that without 24/7 monitoring and care by a nurse, you could die. And that is the reason you are in hospitals today. It is not for anything else. Everything else could be done outpatient and simply discharged to a hotel room with an AI chatbot, and we can consider yourself good to go. But the reality is there's so much that nurses do that have not been correctly captured. Because we are not a reimbursable expense, all of the workflows, all of the services we provide are missing in electronic health records. Hence why AI is actually failing at scale in almost every example at the bedside, because they looked at written materials, which is only documented for physicians. And because most of that work is conducted by nursing, these AI algorithms actually aren't incorrect and do not do the work reliably in place of what nurses do at the bedside. So I think a lot of these points are spot on. I think you speak well. Also, Marion and I have talked often about the Woodhull study that shows the decrease of the amount of nurses in media, publicly speaking on behalf of our profession, and why your calls to action are relevant to actually moving this forward. Marion, as we're talking to this publication and on Nurse.org specifically, which is one of the last and largest nursing newsletters in the United States, what are your thoughts?
Well, I guess we've been talking about this for so long that, I'll ask you, Sandy, because we ask most of the people we interview, but how do we get more nurses to be as fired up about this as we are? How do we get them to understand the urgency of defining our profession in the public sphere and doing the work it takes to help elevate and amplify the profession? Now, and we've talked about, there are reasons why some nurses can't and don't, and I don't know that we need to rehash those today, but what do you think, how do you think we could go about encouraging more nurses to use their voice and to push a more positive narrative of our profession?
Right. And, I also didn't answer. I'm finished answering my question last time, not because of you, because of me. But we need nurses to create media, social media, write books, write television shows, do radio shows, letters to the editor, if that's even a thing anymore. It's not as much of a thing as it used to be. So get out there and speak to the world about what nurses do, the value of nursing. It doesn't always have to be the value of nursing. Sometimes you can just speak about healthcare by, there's hospice nurse Julie, there's Christina and P on TikTok, who educated us about COVID and vaccines during the hard COVID, and other nurses. Tyler Cook is doing a lot of educational information. So just being out there educating patients about health sets nurses up as experts. And that's something we need people to see, that nurses are health experts. So how to get nurses fired up? I mean, certainly those million nurses sitting on the sidelines, certainly they must be angry at what the hospital system has done to them. They spent 4 years in nursing school, and then the hospital chews them up and spits them out because of the horrific, grueling working conditions that, we undertake there. There's no reason. And patients get, terrible care when nurses are stretched so thin. I mean, who wants to be a patient in some of these settings? I know I don't. I couldn't. The last hospital I was at in the ER, the care was atrocious.
Yep, terrible.
I told the nurse managers on a daily basis how we could improve, how terrible it was. And they're just like, oh, metrics, finances. No, don't say we have short staffing. It's like, well, we do. And the patients are getting tortured because of it. So how to get nurses fired up? Get angry. Don't turn that anger inward. Turn it outward, because that's where it belongs. And
take anger and turn it into action, Sandy. Turn it outward. I agree with you. Stop internalizing it. Stop doing these things. Stop burning yourself out. Actually, this was a conversation I was having with a colleague just yesterday who was saying nurses are just exhausted. They're burned out. And I said, what stops me from being burned out is not internalizing that frustration anymore, but actually speaking out about it. Because when you keep this stuff bottled in, when you keep it all down and you do those things, it wears your spirit and your soul down. But when you actually do something, you go to like the Truth About Nursing and you write an email campaign, you make a phone call, suddenly that voice and that frustration is put into action that changes the energy around the situation. And what I think most of us, and why Marion and I want to keep inspiring people, is don't just sit in the moment and take that all on yourself. Because one small change in action, if you continue to bottle it up, you continue to do things will never change. But you're shocked by when you take that one small action, how just voicing your voice, writing that letter, making that phone call actually makes a difference. And that is the power of being the largest profession in healthcare, is if all of us start using that voice, one phone call a month, one letter a month, we are going to change the future of nursing, but more importantly, we are going to change the future of healthcare in our society for the better. And that is what I think why Marion and I we're so excited about you coming on here, Sandy, was because the work that you're doing gives nurses a very practical and strategic way in which they can take one small action, which may seem small to them, but over time, it becomes monumental for the changes that can occur from it.
Fully agree. Thank you, Rebecca.
Well, Sandy, and we're going to start wrapping up. Thank you so much for joining us. Is there any parting words you'd like to leave to inspire nurses to do what we've all been talking about and use their voice to amplify the profession?
Yeah, just, we save lives. We matter. We have value. Make sure the whole world knows that. Speak up. Don't let people get under your skin. Tell them what's what. And we can change the world that way.
Sandy Summers, I'm excited to be joining and working more closely with the Truth About Nursing. I'm going to lean in more on this and sign up for that newsletter and also do more of the writing campaign. But Marion, it is always great being here with you.
Yeah, thank you, Rebecca. Sandy, please keep us in mind for your coalition. And we look forward to following all the work you continue to do, hopefully for the next 25 years.
Thanks so much for inviting me. It's lovely to be with you.
And everyone who tuned in, we'll see you guys next week for the Love and Leary podcast on what's going on to change the future of policy for nursing and bring the conversations that we think are most necessary to the voices of nurses across the United States and globally. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for listening to the Love and Leary podcast. We hope this conversation sparked new ideas, challenged your thinking, and reminded you of the power nurses have to lead change.
If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it. You can find more episodes and join the conversation wherever you do your podcast listening.